Discover the advantage of unlimited access to all the stories and resources from IBJ and inside Indiana business. From insights to inspiration, business leaders rely on the IBJ for all things Indiana business. Start your $1 a week trial now at ibj.com/trial offer.
Moments of inspiration mixed with time to network, IBJ Media Events has you covered. From industry deep dives to awards celebrating Indiana's top leaders, see what's coming up and reserve your seat at ibj.com/RSVP.
This is the IBJ Podcast for the week of September 8th, 2025. I'm Lesley Weidenbener, the editor of IBJ, in this week for Mason King. Each year, IBJ publishes an A&E Fall Preview, and for the past 2 years, reporter Dave Lindquist has packed that guide full of can't-miss events for the fall, winter, and even into spring. Dave pores over the schedules of dozens of organizations and event spaces in town to make his picks, which include big-time performances, as well as the kinds of smaller events that might otherwise fly under the radar. For this week's episode of the IBJ Podcast, I talked with Dave about how he decides what makes the list, and I asked him which events he's most excited about. Here's our conversation. We are here with Dave Lindquist, who is the arts and entertainment writer for IBJ and the author of our A&E Fall Preview Guide. Dave, welcome back to the podcast.
It's always good to be here. Thanks, Lesley.
I think we did this last year, actually, as well. Am I correct on that?
It's ringing a bell. Ringing a bell.
So I want you first to tell us about the A&E preview. What are you looking for? How many picks do you have in here? 130 picks that you've made for this guide. Is that right?
Yep. We're just a little north of 130. There's kind of an artificial but cool demarcation of when this guide is timed to. Every year, a little before Labor Day, the Indy Arts Council has an event called Start With Art, which is an afternoon kind of banquet and rallying cry and a fundraiser for that organization. And I've been going to this thing for many years, and one of the fun things that actually was recognized during the event this year, I was stunned by, they put the covers of all the publications in town, because pretty much everybody does this arts and entertainment guide. And it's fun to do this because if you look at this section, the months of September and October are packed, beyond packed. And
why is that, Dave? Why are September and October so full of options?
I think people are just getting into routines post-summer, and traditionally it's when arts organizations kick off their season and they want to show off their best. And it's really rewarding to see, I think, more than 85 venues and arts organizations are included in our section. And one thing I don't want it to be is 7 events from the biggest organization in town. I want to give a sampler, try to hit as many of the places as I can, and doggone it, just this week, I wrote about an event that didn't get into this section that easily could have. There's an archives for the author Ray Bradbury at Indiana University in Indianapolis, which has been around for about 18 years, but it's not super public facing. But this is the 4th edition of their festival. It's called Festival 451 Indy, which is inspired by Bradbury's most known work, Fahrenheit 451. And they're doing things across basically a whole month, and it's just really fun to learn about that. And next year in my big spreadsheet, I'll make sure that that event is on my radar.
One of the fun things about this is you are literally pushing events into this guide as we're laying it out and getting ready to send it to the printer. So we thank our wonderful designers for helping you to get the latest things in. But how do you said you have a spreadsheet. How do you start thinking through what to put in the guide?
Oh, it's just what's news. News is something that's different and unusual and maybe hasn't been in this town. And, one of the things I love about Indianapolis is that if someone has an idea and they want to try it, you'll get a chance to try it and someone will know about it. And thankfully, we're in a season or a time where a lot of people are doing that. I moved to Indianapolis in 1998, and for the first few years, it was discouraging that I would see people who had something going on or had some big ideas, and what were they doing? They were leaving Indianapolis. It's gratifying to see that people are staying, and we're actually attracting people now.
Can you think of an example of the kind of thing you think is sort of interesting and novel and an idea that someone had that has kind of either taken hold or maybe is debuting this year?
Well, this will be the second edition of a literary festival called Proof that happens in October at the Harrison Center. Last year was a very fun and successful debut. It was a single day last year. This year it's 2 days. So that's encouraging right there. And on the topic of people coming to Indianapolis, so right now, Flanner House has its inaugural artistic director, Austin Dean Ashford. I met Austin Dean Ashford because he performed at the Treese Hip Hop Festival, and I was talking to him, and he was saying, I had some options of going into some academic programs at some pretty high-profile schools, but Flanner House offered me this kind of gig where I can do something. And one of the things that he's doing in April is hosting a reading by the still relatively new Naptown African American Theater Collective. So these are the kinds of things that come onto the scene that are refreshing and invigorating, I would say.
So we'll get into the list. I have to say the very first event on the list was a concert featuring, it was an Alison Krauss show. It actually took place the day after Start With Art. Is that correct?
Or the night of. The
night of Start With Art. I went to this show, so I wanted to make sure we mentioned it, even though it's past, because it was spectacular. Alison Krauss hadn't been on the road with her band in, I think, a decade. And so the crowd was super excited to see her. It was absolutely fantastic.
I love to hear it. I've seen Alison many times. She's unrivaled when it comes to awkward between song banter. But
she was not as awkward. That was interesting. I thought, well, some things have changed in 10 years. She was slightly less awkward, but I totally agree with you. It's actually one of the things that makes her show different and interesting.
Yeah. But I would listen to her sing the phone book. It's a voice.
Absolutely. So Dave, and you have already seen a few shows, I believe, as we start the fall season. What have you seen?
Well, on the topic of concerts, I will just mention that I'm back from vacation. I spent a few days in Chicago where I was fortunate to attend the mighty Oasis reunion show at Soldier Field. This tour is the feel-good music story of the summer, and this tour has exactly one date in the United States between New York and LA, and it was August 28th at Soldier Field.
Wow.
It was glorious.
And did it live up to the expectations?
I wrote something about it in the newsletter this week, and I've never been at a show that was 23 songs long that felt like it was just zipping by and evaporating because I wanted it to go on and on and on.
Wow. Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Let's get back to talking about what's going on in Indiana. And before we get into the details, I just want to mention that if you did not receive a copy of the A&E Fall Preview, you can see it online at ibj.com. And so, Dave, pick out a few things that you think people should pay attention to this year.
Well, the one thing I'm going to mention right now is not an event, but it's certainly caught a lot of people's attention, and people are talking about this in Indianapolis and the neighborhood of Broad Ripple specifically. And it's a new 30-foot tall sculpture known as Gavin Divergence that's going to be placed. They just passed their final hurdle, a zoning board hearing where they were given a variance on sight lines for traffic. I'd say it's going to be up before Halloween, and a lot of people think it's kind of scary and imposing, and a lot of people say this is so cool and this is what Broad Ripple needs. But I think it's just one of those cases where public art is very polarizing, and to have an impact, people talk about it. If it was a run-of-the-mill kind of sculpture, nobody would be paying attention. So
before we get into what the controversy is, tell us about the artist.
Jason Myers grew up in Logansport. He was in Indianapolis for about a decade. He had a art studio at the Stutz building. He did some conventional painting, I believe, and some other types of art, but he's really hit his stride with what he calls monumental scale public art. So the Gavin series is something he's endeavored, and the largest one he's made was 60 feet tall. It was at a music festival in Europe. There's kind of a human-sized one in Carmel right now. The one in Broad Ripple is going to be about 30 feet tall. The legs are kind of the dominant feature because they're steel I-beams. And then at the top, it's kind of a metallic skeletal presentation. And is it warm and fuzzy? No.
Does not look warm and fuzzy.
I'm eager to see what this thing looks like.
So what's the controversy?
Kind of two pain points for people are that, oh, that looks like something scary. That's not what we want in Broad Ripple. And a lot of people say, okay, you put it right on that corner. So this corner is the intersection of Westfield, Broad Ripple Avenue, and College. They all come together in kind of a 5-point intersection. And presently, it's a Broad Ripple Village Association just sign where they put things that are coming, like things that are going on in the neighborhood. So they're going to take that out and put Gavin there. And people say, oh, that's going to be such a distraction for drivers. And I mean, I hope that it's not. But this last zoning board vote, which was 5-0 in favor, they say they don't think anything bad's going to happen.
We talked about the artist. Before we move on, let's talk about who is funding this art piece, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yes. So Tag Burge has a vision for large-scale art in Broad Ripple. He wants to put 3 to 5 pieces and have it all funded privately. So that's one hurdle. When public art is suggested, a lot of people, or some people say, well, why are we spending public funding on that? None of these pieces will have that. So as you said, yeah, that's an interesting approach to take to it.
Just want to mention Tag Burge is Tag Burge was a Philanthropist of the Year in IBJ's recent inaugural Nonprofit of the Year awards program. And this was part of the reason, part of what he's working on that I thought was interesting. So okay, so we all can look forward to, in just a few weeks, it sounds like, that we will be seeing the Gavin sculpture in person. What else do you have coming up?
I'll admit to having some recency bias. Last week, I took an item in the guide and expanded into a kind of a full-fledged story, previewing a play at the Phoenix Theater Cultural Center called The Rocket Men. This is a play based on post-World War II, some rocket scientists from Germany who the U.S. said, come do stuff like that in the United States. And these gentlemen, led by Werner von Braun, basically helped the United States compete in the space race and ultimately the Apollo rockets. But this play has a holistic view that also peeks back at von Braun's history in Germany, where he was a member of the Nazi Party, and there's some human toll that went along with the making of some of the big weapons projects that he did in Germany. And another interesting aspect about this play is that it's an all-female cast portraying these rocket men. And without a spoiler being said, this is very much not a gimmick. The reason for this casting is very tied to the plot. But again, I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm eager to see this play. I think it opened this past weekend and it runs through most of September. And if a goal of art is to make people think and examine the good and bad sides of a coin, I think this play will be pretty effective.
It's one of the reasons I like the art guide a lot, the way that you put it together, because it'd be easy to just do sort of the biggest shows, the biggest names, but pointing out these really interesting items is, I think, fantastic as well.
While we're complimenting things, our lead designer, Audrey Pelser, she made such a great thematic visual for the guide and the cover. At that Start With Art event, I will say that it was a magnet. People were coming over, looking at this thing, saying, ooh and ah, and what a great design she made.
That's awesome. So before we jump into, I do want to cover a couple of the maybe names that people do know, but let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
Taft, today's modern law firm. With more than 800 attorneys in 8 primary Midwest markets and the District of Columbia, we provide solutions to the business issues facing middle market and emerging companies alike. We do this through a highly collaborative and inclusive team approach. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Up your business news game with a subscription to the IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. For a limited time, try us out for just $1 a week for 8 weeks. Get started now at ibj.com/trial offer.
Okay, we're back with the IBJ Podcast. I'm Lesley Weidenbener, the editor of IBJ, and I'm talking with Dave Lindquist, who is the arts and entertainment writer at IBJ. He also is the author of the After Hours newsletter, which you can sign up for if you go to ibj.com.
This email newsletter, includes stuff you're not going to find anywhere else. And if you're already a subscriber to the IBJ, please take advantage of getting the newsletter also.
Yeah, the newsletter is fantastic. We started it, how long has it been? 3 years now?
I count them, and we're up to about 180, so however many weeks that is.
It's fantastic. It's one of my favorite newsletters that we do, and I always find things to do in it. So yeah, I really recommend that you go to ibj.com and sign up for Dave's After Hours newsletter. So Dave, tell us about some things that are on the arts guide that might actually be a little more familiar to people.
In September, out at Ruoff Music Center, 2 artists who played the summer that venue debuted, 1989, there were individual shows by Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan. And they're going to be here on the same night as part of Willie's Outlaw Music Tour. And I know a lot of people saw the Bob Dylan film starring Timothée Chalamet. And a Bob performance is very unpredictable, and it's not going to be what you expect, and don't expect it to be what you expect. But he's getting up there, and there's no time like the present to go see Bob. And Willie's north of 90, and I think 2 days after he's here in Indianapolis, he'll be in Minneapolis for the 40th anniversary edition of Farm Aid, which of course features Indiana Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, music icon John Mellencamp, and Neil Young, and Dave Matthews, and Margo Price. But that's in Minneapolis. I don't know. I'm straying to these other Midwestern cities, but
It's okay. Everybody loves a road trip.
Exactly.
But Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan will be here. We'll be at Ruoff. That's exciting.
Yes.
just up the road from Ruoff is the arena at Innovation Mile in Noblesville. And I want to talk about it because it's getting ready to host its first sort of traditional concert. So tell us about the arena. Tell us about what people can see there.
For starters, this is primarily a basketball arena. This is where the Noblesville Boom, the, for lack of a better term, minor league team affiliated with the Pacers, is going to play. But I was encouraged to see that they're going to have some concerts there. I think they did maybe a freebie or a preview night with a Pink Floyd tribute band. But in September, later this month, they're going to have a first show, like original songs by the original artists show. And it's a wacky bill that includes Vanilla Ice and Young MC.
Are you going to be at that one, Dave?
It is very hard to resist opening night at a venue. You like to tick those off the box. And
that does sound like actually a really fun and interesting show. And it's exciting to have another venue in the region where people can go see a show. I mean, it just feels like we're starting to burst at the seams with places to go see shows.
Well, that's a good point. And more are on the way. The Simon funded room right downtown next to the Cambridge Fieldhouse is on the way. The folks at Big Car Collective, their expansion in Garfield Park is going to include an indoor music hall that sounds pretty cool. Hi-Fi Annex in Fountain Square is going to be transitioning to an indoor year-round music venue, also in the Murphy Building. Well, Hi-Fi Annex was behind the Murphy Building. This one will be inside the Murphy. So lots of chances to host shows. I'm a little uncertain about who's going to go to all these shows, but we'll see.
Speaking of venues, I want to bring up a show that you're recommending at the Indiana Repertory Theater, a very historic venue, a historic building. But tell us about that show.
Part of the IRT's 2025-2026 season includes a play based on Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who's not that well known.
I'm not familiar.
She's known as the godmother of rock and roll. And this specific play focuses on her work with a gospel singer back in the day. And I want to seek out as much information about Sister Rosetta Tharpe that I can. So I'm definitely going to write about this play, and I want to check it out. And I think more people are going to know about Sister Rosetta Tharpe because there's a biopic film in the works with Lizzo in that role.
That is definitely something I would want to see. Sounds great. What else do you have? I know you wrote about Gino Shelton in the Arts Guide.
Yes, I've known Gino for a long time, but he was in town a long time before I got here. He's a concert promoter, dance party promoter, comedy concert promoter. Grew up in Michigan, moved to Indianapolis 40 years ago. So his shows this year have had a 40th anniversary signifier. And during Indiana Black Expo's Circle City football weekend, he has back-to-back shows at Clues Memorial Hall. One is a funk music fest featuring, like 5 or 6 old school funk bands that he used to play on the radio because he was a DJ at WTLC. And then the second night is a comedy night. And he is an independent promoter. Like, it's not Live Nation. He to do what he does,
job, right? I mean, that is not an easy thing to be.
To do what he does, you have to take a lot of risks, take a lot of lumps. And for 40 years in this specific industry, it's really impressive.
It was a great story. I was so glad that you pitched it and included it in the A&E guide. So that is one that people should definitely check out, which again, you can find in the printed version of the A&E Guide, or you can find it online at ibj.com. So Dave, we only have a few more minutes. Give us another event or two that you think that people should check out.
One fun thing about the Indianapolis 500 and the red carpet experience is seeing this actor from Indiana named Drew Powell slide through. He also really supports the Pacers. He's usually in Los Angeles, appearing in Curb Your Enthusiasm and other televised shows. He has an event October 4th at Feinstein's in Carmel that's basically like a cabaret / storytelling night. And I just think it's fascinating that he's doing this and he's doing it here. We've talked about staying power a little bit in this conversation, whether it's Gino for 40 years. One event that started in the late 90s that I remember covering the first few, and I've covered them ever since then, is an event called Indie Jazz Fest. And it happens at various venues through this month. But the big grand finale finish is Saturday, September 20th, Everwise Amphitheater in White River State Park, where the lineup includes Terrence Blanchard, a horn player that I've loved hearing his music in Spike Lee films through the years. This guitarist named Judith Hill, a smooth jazz standout named Brian Culbertson. And, we're in that good stretch of Indiana weather that's so rare, but it usually lines up with the September Indie Jazz Fest.
Dave Ali is still the leader of the Indie Jazz Fest. Is that right?
That is correct.
And Dave has really shepherded this thing over the years, and the stability that he has created around this Jazz Fest, I think, has really been incredible. That is a great place for us to wrap things up. Dave's newsletter is called After Hours, and it is available for free. Go to ibj.com and sign up for the newsletter. Dave is also the host of a radio show. And Dave, I never get the details right, so I'm going to let you explain your radio show.
You can tune into The Beat on 92.3 WTTS. 7 p.m. on Mondays. You can tune in on a regular old radio on the FM dial. You can stream it at WTTSFM.com, or just ask the smart speaker of your choice in your house to play WTTS at 7 o'clock on Mondays.
And what do you hear on The Beat?
All new music, a good selection of Indiana artists, stuff you don't hear anywhere else.
Outstanding. Dave, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, for explaining the art guide, and I'm hoping that lots of people will check it out.
Me too. Thanks.
Thanks again to Dave Lindquist for talking with us about his picks for IBJ's 2025 A&E Fall Preview. Subscribers can see all of his picks at ibj.com. And if you're not a subscriber, sign up at ibj.com/subscriptions. We offer special deals for members of the Indie Chamber, for young professionals, for employers, universities, and more. And don't forget, while you're at ibj.com, to sign up for Dave's free arts and culture newsletter called After Hours. And check out The Beat with Dave Lindquist on WTTS 92.3 and streamed on your favorite device. Thanks for listening. Mason King will be back next week.
Curious about what's shaping law in Indiana? From court reforms and NIL rights to mental health courts and energy commissions, the Indiana Lawyer Podcast breaks down the biggest legal issues of our time. I'm your host, reporter Maura Johnson. Join me every other week for your insider guide to what matters in law and why it impacts you. Subscribe now in your favorite podcast app or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.